Listen, that everyone can see you too late. So from the time I'm still dragging out this lip gloss.
You're so funny. Oh, Aisha's in.
Right. Are you not ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Can I tell you how many tunes we've got to get in?
Oh boy, go on, tell me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Ah, love it. You know it. Do you know how many people? I was on a client call and they were like, oh, the tunes that Shereen was dropping. Abby, you were like doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes at one part. I said, look, I don't play when it comes to music. When it comes to music and it's Friday and it's feel good vibes and we're spreading good love, we're spreading good energy, we're ready. We're ready.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know how many people love the music though? It's true, because I was who was I talking to this week about doing some workshops, and she's like, oh, I've just got to say, really serious conversation, and she was like, I really like your Friday live sessions. You know when it throws you when somebody goes from one subject to another? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Love it.
Oh, we've got so many people. Look.
I forgot the champagne.
I'm so sorry. Just to say, we got to keep saying this. When LinkedIn, this is nothing to do with anybody's profile. This is just the platform that I use. It's like a third-party integration, so I can't always see. So I have no idea who this fabulous person is, but thank you. You see that?
I love that. I love that.
Right.
Let's close the sheet.
Send woman around fiance to my name and never to bad person. You know, I'm sent busy to me, my name call man. Gorilla Tony Rebel man. Hush, hush. Somebody call my name. Me ball out, hush. Somebody call my name. Me ball out, hush. Somebody call my name. Me ball out, hush. I make me answer to me name, the name call. I'm never answer to it, and everybody just I wonder when me going answer with the same
Always
name.
Nadia,
Just let me tell you this is some sweet melody and some conscious spirit, because I love the music. I will come
Hola en español. Hola.
Every minute.
We got Spain in the
house. Somebody call my name. I tell you every hush. I make me answer to me name. I tell you every hush. Somebody call my name. I tell you every hush. I make me answer to me name. You can't present no more to the rebel, because I am confronting the battle. I'm inspired by Jah and not the devil. So me have good lyrics to give the people, because a long time I'm on prepare. From the image in God, never take my share. From the ear to the rebel man, the jaw and ear. And tell the people them what they're supposed to hear. So just hush. Somebody call my name. I tell you the hush. And make me answer to me name. And tell you the hush.
Oh my God. Listen. How many people know about Tony Rebel? Do you know what I mean? How many people know about Tony Rebel? It's old school. That is so old school.
I know, but I was still appreciating anyway.
Listen, Tony Rebel is so old school. I actually felt old saying Tony Rebel, because that's how, like,
that's a sign. It's big people music, and now we're the big people.
It's big people music.
Listen, I don't know how we are going to do this session, because like it's going to be madness. Hey Xander, it's going to be madness.
Hi, Xander.
Hey, oh, you're very welcome. You are very welcome. It's great to have you here. We're going to go crazy. So let me just set the scene, because you know this session is going to be all over the place.
Lord.
Before we even get started, please, can we just take a moment to welcome my two fabulous people from my team? You know when you just feel like you just want to like squeeze two people.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
So awesome. So
I did actually well up when I saw the post on my chat. Yeah, because Shereen, what you're doing is extraordinary. But you know, and like you said, if only we had people like that to look out for us when we all started off, then I think a lot of us would be in really good places, and having to know that you're not in this systemic fight alone is just an amazing thing. And I think the opportunity that you've given to them is fantastic, and that will hopefully help them progress forward with whatever they want to do, and yeah, I did. I had a moment. It was just really nice, actually.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, guys. Yeah, I did too. I was like trying to hold it together, but no.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know when you're just like, now come on now. But no, it's a good moment. So they're both fabulous. We've got Toya has got her graduation party on Saturday, and I think Ryan James is in the car. So I don't know where he's going, but he's in the car. So I'm just gonna I promised I would give them a shout out. I sent them a text. I was like, you can jump on the live stream if you want, like 20 minutes before we're due to go.
Typical Shereen.
Yep. I so last minute. Right.
But can I just say one more thing just about what you're doing, just for everybody else, just to say, this is just the beauty of what you're doing is, as Abby said, if each one of us manages to pass it forward, it doesn't have to be in the same way, but if each one of us manages to pass it forward to another young Black person who's starting out, the amount of advantages that we're giving them, let's just fast forward 10 years from now, what will it look like? 20 years from now, what will it look like? Just strengthening the chain with each generation. But not only that, the people who are ahead of us, they should also be thinking, well, do you know something? I was so preoccupied and it was so scarce having my seat, but now I'm realizing that's not the case. That's just my conditioning. Let me also stretch down my hand and pull up those who are there also trying. So that's all I wanted to say. So Shereen, just doing it because it's exemplifying what people who are already there can be doing to help us today, but also what all of us can do in some way, shape or form to kind of carry it on.
Absolutely.
100%. You know what, one of the things I know, like, you should never, because you know what, everything happens for a reason, right? We had to be this here, and it's not to say that I haven't done stuff and I haven't mentored young people, so I've done all of that and the rest, but I think it's a different thing when it's deliberate and very intentional, and also it's very thoughtful in terms of like connecting the dots with the bigger picture, because I'm just kicking myself that I did not do this. You know, I could have done this 15 years ago when I got to a certain point in my career, very young. I was very young to be head of HR. You know, all my peers were a lot older than me, and I had the opportunity, but because I was so focused on like me getting ahead and thinking, oh my God, I haven't got time to like help anybody else in that way. I haven't got time to like create. And I was just there, and I just wish the light bulb had gone on for me sooner.
But
even
you know
though
what? You know what as well, Shereen? Ironically, you even spearheading that. Look at the A-level results. Look what's happened right now. Look at where a lot of people of color, you know, young people of color have been screwed over with their A-levels. You know, all I'm reading is one person after another having, you know, their lives pretty much rocked by their grades, you know. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of these grades are being predicted by the area that you grew up in. So if you're born into, I don't know, Chelsea, you're more likely to get an A than if you were born in Brixton. It's outrageous. Naturally, what you're doing, you're spearheading that, because a lot of young people are very confused right now and very hurt, and they feel very betrayed by the government, by the establishment. But again, you know, that goes back to systems of oppression. Actually, you know, I mean, this can be for another conversation. We said we were going to do a topic on education.
We are.
So we'll come back to this. But
young people and getting it. I think just also the other thing is, even on that bit, is just to say, to some extent, it's for young people, but it's also for anybody at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
You know, who've been made redundant. There's restructuring going on in businesses as we speak, and I guess it's just a reminder that there is so much that we can create just with who we are. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like, you know, so from when you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, what am I going to do? You've got avenues over here, but you've also got uncharted territory over there.
Really?
You just think to yourself, do you know what? This ain't it right now, but what about this? Let me just give this a go, rather than feeling frozen because what you had your eye on now feels like it's no longer.
And just to go back to the other point, Shereen, someone said, and I agree with them, saying you're doing it now, that's what matters. I think you also have to put into the fact that when we were coming up, who was also, sometimes you do learn by example. So if there wasn't another Black person doing this for you, you can't say you would have known or not. It's that we're also growing, we're also developing in these kinds of conversations, and all this new education that's happening is motivating us to all to look at how we behave, how we interact, how we're going to come forward and to do things that are larger than ourselves. Whereas back then it was a different space, a different time. So, you know, if you look at it like this, everything that you've done and got you to today has meant that you have all of those rich facets that you can give on to Ryan, James and Toya. And without those experiences, today would also look very different. So
and they passed it on, to their friends, that, you know, so it's, you know, so you get that extended network. And I think that's the bit that we forget, the tentacles in the positive way, we forget the ripples. So, oh my God, look how deep we're going in. I've got like
I know. But education piece, I do think actually it is what you're doing, Shereen. It's really important, and I think that needs to be amplified, and people need to jump on that and capitalize on that in for themselves, and how they can lead by, you know, you're leading by example, and how they can also do it. If they've got the means and if they've got the platform to do so, then do it. And I think that's why, you know, that's why for me, decolonizing the education system is so important. It's so important, and I am really looking forward for when we do that educational piece, because it will tie back into internships. It will.
Yes. Oh my goodness, and work experience and who you offer. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Right. We've got to stop right there. Listen, all I can say is I hope people have got till like half 3. By the time we actually get started with what we're meant to be talking about, and I've got songs, because this is my last session before September. You know, we've got a lot to get in. So, I'm not even going to do no preamble. Jesus. Leanne, I'm going to let you start. Kick us off, because you know Leanne is going to take us back to school. She's going to drop some knowledge. I'm going to try and hold it together. Some knowledge on cultural appropriation. Lots of different terms, all meaning the same thing. Right. It means the same thing. And what we're going to do in this session is we're going to dig underneath it. I guess, and I'm going to be very honest and say, even from me and my journey and kind of just thinking about all the different facets of being Black and culture and protecting of culture has made me curious about this, and thinking about even how I might have unknowingly participated in cultural appropriation or misappropriation of the culture through ignorance. So it's not often, because you know
that's a brilliant point, Shereen. That is a brilliant point.
We're cussing everybody and we're going like you and you and you.
Yeah, no, but I feel like that's a brilliant take on it, Shereen, actually. And I think it is really important for us to be honest, because even me, I look back at some of the nonsense that I've done growing up and I'm like, what was I thinking?
Abby, at least you're growing up. I'm thinking about what I was doing like 3, 4, 5 months ago. What I'm buying. You look at you, like trying to make out like you know.
I've evolved. I don't do that anymore.
Oh yeah, when I was 12, I'm just like I was doing this, but you know, Shereen, I felt better, and I'm thinking, no, I'm big 39 years old, and I'm still like, you know, messing up left, right, and centre.
But it's so true, because you know what, we're Black and we're proud and we love being Black, but a part of the fracture in our background, the fracture is most of the time is that we don't have that self-worth that we should have. And the reason why a lot of the time we don't have the self-worth that we should have is that we don't know half the things we have originated. And I always get his name wrong, but he's a really good recent example. Last year, was it that guy Little Nas did a song with Ray Cyrus? Is that
Billy Ray? Old Town Road.
I'm really bad at pop culture names, but anyway. And there was a lot of uprising about country music and how dare this Black boy do country music.
God. Leanne, hold on a minute. Why didn't you warn people before you should have diving straight in?
I'm starting today and I'm working back. You know, everyone got vexed. Everyone got vexed about country music. Why this Black boy? Well, newsflash for anybody who didn't know, country music is Black music. And I'm not saying it to incite you. I'm saying you can research it and you can look at the origins of music. Everyone says, oh yeah, you know, they think Elvis did Black music. No, you ain't nothing but dog. Big Mama Thornton. And this cultural misappropriation in music is just one of the many ways where we are historically erased. Taken what is ours, sold as being something else. And this was a fight that they had in the 60s. So they'd make records, then they wouldn't play them. They play them on black radio, but then they would be taken over by white artists, soulful white music, and the black artists would get nothing. And these are the things, this is the fracture that we are missing. We need to understand where we come from, because people have been and continue to steal what is ours without us sometimes even knowing. So when you're looking at music and people are talking about rock and roll, it's ours. It's ours. Anything with drums, it's ours. It's ours. So it's like, we need to take the time, we absolutely need to take the time to go back and understand the roots of it all, because Black people are so much, we are really historically erased in every single which way. If it comes to scientists, you know, everyone talks about, what's his name, Thomas Edison.
Yeah, and the filament.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's all these links. The person who invented blood banks was Black. The person who invented contraceptives was Black. And it's all these things people who are trying to basically deflect the light away from what we are doing to support their theory that we are inferior, to support the theory that we are incapable, to support the theory that we not only built this with our blood, sweat and tears, but we built it with our brain. And this is why the misappropriation goes so deep. It's not just because they do it and they profit from it. They do it and they erode our self-worth with it. And that is the reason why there is a big difference between appreciating cultural appreciation and cultural misappropriation. And I know this is once again pop culture, but like him or hate him is irrelevant, but you have to also credit the people who acknowledge the Justin Biebers who say, do you know what? I've used Black music, I've made Black music, and I've made money off Black people.
Yeah.
It's
well, at least just before I know, because I know Abby's got so much to say, so I'm going to mute it in a minute. But that's a good example of so much in that. So I'm going to let Abby talk about. We're going to go back to, because Abby, I'm going to ask you to talk about what is the actual definition, because there are some people who actually don't. They think they understand it, but not really. And what, to your point, Leanne, what is the difference between appreciation and inspiration? And we should all get creative inspiration from all different cultures. But what is the line between inspiration and what is the line between misappropriation or appropriation in that sense? And Justin Bieber is a really good example, to your point, Leanne, like him or like him, you know, love him or hate him or whatever. Yeah. Because he always said from day one, he never pretended to be down with that. You know, it just so happened that he had a style of music that he adopted. He was very honest. Now, one thing about Justin Bieber is the fact that he at least stood up when there were things affecting the Black community.
Okay, Shereen. Yeah.
And then can we?
No, I'm agreeing. Because I'm just like, all of these musicians, they annoy me.
Right. Can we compare Justin Bieber to Justin
Timberlake?
I was waiting.
Oh, can we just separate the two Justins? Because Justin Timberlake is a culture vulture. He is a culture vulture. And there's a reason I have I'm not even gonna lie. I was one of the first one to break my neck to "Can Nobody Love You Well I Love You." I was the first one to
girl, and that's what makes me
let me tell you. In all seriousness, sorry, I know we're not serious here, but when I tell you, every time I hear Justin Timberlake's name, my blood just boils, because I'm not sure if he, and actually let's do it with Miley Cyrus as well. Because those two, the reason why I call them culture vultures, is because when they were making money off Black culture, when they were just absorbing everything that we were mocked for, everything that we were ostracized for, everything that we were laughed at for doing, there was nothing. All of a sudden, Justin Timberlake went to go. I don't know if you guys remember, he made this like a non R&B-ish album where he went back to his roots.
I bought the CD. I mean,
Man of the Woods or something. It's called Man of the Woods. Right. So can I just say that was his lowest selling album ever?
Yes.
He
went back to go and do the tune with Nelly Furtado and Timbaland, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's taken a hiatus," and it's like, no, he did music.
No, he did music that didn't sell. He did music that didn't sell because he knows his I'm not even calling it a USP, but whatever. His USP is very much ingrained. His tentacles, his stinking tentacles are all into black culture. And then when Miley Cyrus made her Malibu album like 3 years ago, that was one of her worst selling albums as well. And you remember, I don't know if you remember, she did the song with Will.i.am, like everybody to like I'm popping Marley or whatever, and she was all rapping in it. And then she said she went and I think she did an interview with GQ or she did an interview with NME or something. She was just like, yeah, you know, looking back to black music, even though she made loads of money.
Yes. I remember that interview.
Leanne, she dragged black culture.
Yeah,
she dragged hip-hop.
Misogyny, expletives, smoking too much weed. But listen, let me also say one more thing about Justin Timberlake. Isn't it very interesting that he used to pick black, light-skinned, mixed-race women as his love interest in his videos in order to make them sell more? To make people think, oh yeah, I've got a chance with someone like him, let me buy his music.
Can I just put this in, because this is like a really good point. Listen, Xander's always making me down. He's always got something to say. Do you know what? This is why I love him. Look, this is a point. I'm sorry, Leanne. You know, I was coming to. Yeah, just put your fingers over the top. If you put your fingers up on the top of the screen, like we can see your little hand. It's your turn.
I'm doing the quotation marks, Xander.
Right, this is exactly the point, and the reason why we are here in this space, and this is so. I remember. Lord Simon Woolley, this is a side point but connected, wrote an article about this very thing. When we are talking about equality and equity, and when we are talking about the achievements of black people, his argument was, we can't even be regular black people. We still have to be seen as superhuman to make everybody else stand up and go, we are worthy to be treated equally. So that's like a whole nother discussion. Why are you taking us there? Whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. And going back to this,
going back to your point that you made. So for those who don't, because cultural appropriation, cultural misappropriation, they are interchangeable terms, facts, right? So it occurs when a person from one culture, again, the dominant culture, adopts the fashion, the iconography, the styles, the trends, the music from other cultures. And some of the most controversial and harmful examples of cultural appropriation happens when the dominant culture, the non-dominant culture being appropriated is one of historically oppressed group. So, you know, they have taken something like, I am going to use this example because when I was on a client call, someone did say this to me. Now, she has dreadlocks, and she said to me, Abby, look, I do have dreadlocks. She's a white woman, she said, I have dreadlocks, and I know that a lot of black people, they don't appreciate it. She goes, but I am doing this from a cultural appropriation point of view. And I said, I hear you, and thank you very much for being honest. The reason why you get people raising their eyebrows is because when we wear dreadlocks, when we black people wear dreadlocks, we are seen as, no, Shereen, we are seen as ghetto, we are seen as unemployable, we are seen as ratchet. We are seen as, you know, we're just seen as dirty people. We're seen as dirty. They look at us like we don't bath. When I'm thinking, hold on a second. But you are allowed to appropriate or misappropriate wearing dreadlocks, and you're allowed to get booked and busy. But if a black person wears dreadlocks, we are not employable. They told us that we need to assimilate. And I wanted to talk about cultural assimilation, because cultural assimilation, because people don't know as well, cultural assimilation is when a marginalized group or folks from an underrepresented group adopt elements of the dominant culture in order to survive. In order to survive
and be accepted. So when we talk about in a professional sense, you know, because we've talked about this a lot, I've used that term a lot when I think about myself. When we talk about it in a professional sense, what it means is we put our sense of self to one side, or we suppress it, or we shed it completely, and we look at what the dominant society or the dominant individuals are doing as a majority. So think about this majority, and when people go, yeah, but that's, and I said, what you don't understand is look at the neighborhoods, look at what you see on the television, look at your experience in school, look at the teachers you have, look at what your line managers look like, look at what the directors look like, look at what the government looks like. All of these things, every single day you are getting images of
exactly
white people in powers, in position of power.
Position of power, yeah.
So in your mind, you're thinking, when you don't see enough people who look like you, this is to be anybody, but when you don't see people enough look, what you start to realize is anybody who looks like us are not good enough, because if we were good enough, this is what we start to think, we would be here. So it's a little bit like, you know, when it's the same process when somebody's being mentored by somebody who they really look up to. After a while, osmosis.
It happens, man.
Exactly.
It's the same principle.
Exactly. Osmosis.
Like that.
Osmosis.
And you know what? I will even shade myself right now and say, look at like 99% of the, let's say 99% of the profile pictures of Black women, myself included, on LinkedIn. What's our hair like? Most of us.
Leanne, do you know what someone said? Sorry, really quick, because you just tried to. Someone said to a Black woman said, kudos to all the women who shave their hair and wear a short fro, because we have been it's been internalized, and we have been, you know, we're judged by our beauties and our hair. So when you are able to, and that's one of the reasons why I did shave my hair, if I'm really honest, because I was like, oh, you know what, I can wear my hair whatever, but let me see how I feel rocking it short. And to be honest, I probably feel the most beautiful I've ever felt and the most authentic I've ever felt, because I'm like, I'm in myself, innit? I'm feeling myself like this. But because we have, you just like you're saying, Leanne, because if you look at our profiles and you see where we've had to assimilate into cultures.
I wanted to say the next part about it is that the profile picture, and I've seen this a lot, the profile picture might be straight hair, right? Because it's your calling card, it's your business card. Exactly. But how am I wearing my hair in real life? I got plaits,
exactly.
I got blonde hair, I got green hair,
exactly.
Whatever it might be. And that's the point, that we are, as you said to your country, we assimilate because we believe that's the way to get forward. And then in our real life, where are we? We're different.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing before I play a tune? Because then when you then tie that back to cultural misappropriation, we know, so take that dreadlock example, and you know I've had locks in the past, right? My daughter's got locks, my sister's got locks, my mum's got locks.
My sisters as well, yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's lots of people who got locks, but you know, back in those days, wasn't that common, but you know, it's very common. The other thing is, when we can't get hired because of how we style our hair, right?
Exactly.
We cannot get hired because of how we style our hair. But then when you have people who are not of the marginalized group adopting the same cultural traditions,
and getting booked and busy, and they are booked and busy,
paid to represent an image that we are oppressed for, they get rewarded and get the opportunity, and they get seen to be urban, down with the, you know, down. Listen,
we're called ratchet, and we're called hood, and we're called
but let's just take it one more thing before we go any further. Let's also remember that dreadlocks are also tied to the religion of Rastafarianism. So this is it's not even just a pure fashion misappropriation.
It's a religious one, yes.
And Anne-Marie's always his point. I just want to say this, and we are told what's okay.
Exactly.
Again, that's the point. That is the point. So when it's cultural appropriation, because it's not even as if when some people go, no, I accept it in, you know, I understand it comes from, you know, Black people as an example, and you know, I don't mind when I see it in other, you know, other cultures using it, and it's a bit like, but what is happening?
But also, Shereen,
transaction going on. Is their position almost being elevated in some way because of taking something from our culture?
Exactly. You're hitting up in fact. And just really quickly before you hit play, remember, going back to the power part, marginalized groups, we don't have the power to decide if we prefer to stick with our customs, or if we want to try and the dominant cultures, traditions just for fun. We don't have that kind of power. No, we can't do fighting just for fun. You know, that we don't have the privilege, and we don't have the power to do so. We have to stick within our own remit.
Right, can I just say, I've got one tune to play, and I swear to God, I did not know we were going to bring up Justin Bieber and Justin Timberlake. I swear to you. not because of the song. It's not for just the Timberlake song. But clearly, we entertain people, Abby, when we were all giving like some choreography, right? So this tune is one for the choreographers.
I bet no.
Don't leave your girl around me. True player for real. Ask my nigga for real.
Excuse me, word.
That's how it's going down. Smell it. Smell it. Don't leave your girl around me. True player for real. Ask my nigga for real. Situation will arise in our lives, but you gotta be smart about it. Celebration with the guy I sacrificed. I knew you could not sleep without me. While I love you. You are my girl. They say I love you. But it's okay, baby. It's okay, girl. 'Cause I'ma be alright tonight. You don't have to call. It's okay, girl. 'Cause I'ma be alright tonight.
Oh, girl, your faces, saying why. Tis the night, should have been more smart about it.
I always get
Cherish me. Listen, Ninja Friends. What a jam, Shereen. What a Usher 8701. That was an album.
Oh my God.
Listen,
That was an album.
Oh my gosh, so many memories.
The way I used to do the snake on the floor.
Listen. I ain't even trying any of that. I'm just leaving you two to be.
You remember that one?
No, was it him that did that though? Was it that? That wasn't him that did all of that.
You're going to kill me today. You're going to kill me.
Right.
Oh, so funny. Woo, that was good. The way I was watching.
Do you know what I mean? Right, so
I don't think you cats today, man.
It's a tune though. It is a tune.
Big tune. Big tune. I love that though. I love that.
Yeah, me and Abby need to calm ourselves, so you can carry on with the culture.
Listen, you guys have distracted me. I don't even know where I was going to go with this.
It's Shereen's coming with the bangers, and I'm not ready.
I feel quite confused. I'm like, what were we even saying before? I don't even remember.
Can I just say something?
Oh, yeah, go.
Another thing I was thinking, actually, as we were body locking and I was all popping my knees under the table, is that with Shereen, come back, man.
Please get your backside back in view.
Sorry, I just spat out my water when Abby's like popping and locking her knees under the table.
I really was though. I don't know who. But you know what I was thinking is that. Going back to something, I think we said something similar when we were talking about BAME, but cultural appropriation also lets people show love for a culture, but they remain prejudiced against its people.
Stop.
I'm losing my breath, Abby. Say it again. Say again.
Rewind.
Take a breath. Remember what we said, because it was good.
It was good.
I was saying that cultural appropriation lets people show love for a culture, but they remain prejudiced against its people.
Right. Yeah.
And that's another thing that's really detrimental about it as well. Because you know, there's a lot of people that are anti-black. You know, they don't like black people. They do not. But they'll be, the moment we drop, you don't have to call, they'll be spinning on their heads like there's no tomorrow. Or they'll come out, when it comes down to, they'll be the one to go, it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how things are coming out. And I'm just like, what? I'm telling you.
Oh, listen. Abby,
I'm telling you, this is true. Not Leanne, Leanne, I'm telling you, I know people who don't have love for black people, but they're the first one to be like, to be like, you know very well who you are. I'm like,
now you know, now you don't know.
You're like, but yeah,
do you know what was that tune though? How many? I don't know if you've ever had this when you've gone to like a work thing, majority white people, and that Biggie tune comes on, and you see the way they love looking at you when they say the N-word. Have you had that? Have you had that? Please tell me if I'm making this up. Do you know how many times I've had that? Have you had that?
And not only that, Shereen, they love to say it loudly. Like they don't know the words. They don't know the words. They'll be like, and if you don't know, now you know. You're just like,
oh, in your face. Can you just remember that one?
Listen, my mascara needs a break. Just stop.
Right, I'm gonna play one next tune because you lot too much, and then I'll play one next tune. Wait,
you style,
play this tune.
style can't sweat. I'm there to jump and shop out for a while. Watch this. You hear new style, you dance and lift in your hand in a kick, you rock when you dip. Come to the drum and make your body kick. Step forward and come up back with the new style. When you want place to do, rap over that some music straight through. Move around the place. So just rap over that. Some of you don't know it. I'm sitting on the dance. After I'm so bored to stay. She can't really go, but she got the same way. You know, boy, so keep stepping on the road. Me and I love stand up and see. Up, down, I rock to the beat. You not try about the new. You make a mess. You step all over. Since like this out, never eat the can go for you hear new signs, you dance at it. In your hand, in your rock, I just a new style where the whole place I do. Rap over that, some music sweet you. Moving around the place like that. So just move over that, some of your tune up play. Until you never need them and over that side. Lion can't do it, want to see that fella. He's it like our, but she not hear that. She don't want to see them over shoulder. Every rock say it's you over like a pole. Rap is over in a bathroom. Come on dance out and I'm going like them.
That's Louise. Do you remember when Budju came out with that tune? That's the old tune now.
Listen. But Abby, back to your point.
Yeah.
About not needing to like the culture that is so prevalent in the fashion industry.
Oh, wait, I just want to hold on. Somebody said a really good right. Hi, Alexander. This is a very good comment.
Yes.
That is the point. You cannot, it goes back to what you were saying before. I was just like, because clearly we couldn't even focus, so I just had to drop one little tune. Wait till I got one next tune. All I can say is everyone have your microphones ready because the next tune that I've got is like, that's just gonna mash up the place. But it goes back to, and I was having this conversation with my partner who, as we know, is an NBA, like their biggest fan in the whole wide world. He can tell you every play, he can tell you statistics. And what I was saying to him is, because when we first started on this thing, and he was like, yeah, but when you watch the basketball games, we had this whole conversation, and he said, when you look at the people in the bleachers, as they call it in the States, and you see a whole heap of white people and a whole heap of black people, he was like, so how does that even work? And this is the point about when you dig underneath it. And this is a really good example because you can go and enjoy the music, you can go and enjoy the games. And let's be honest, like the majority of the owners of the NBA are white. Do you know what I mean? So we got like a whole load of black players, a whole load of black players. And then we don't even need to go into this, but look how Michael Jordan got treated when he started to like, as a player, do whatever. Yeah. And I said, but this is the point. Those same people who will sit in the bleachers and love up basketball, the same people that you said, Abby, will spin on their heads when a tune will come up, right? Then when you're having to talk to them about
serious stuff, right? Yeah.
about how black people are treated. Not only do they not want to know, they also are a bit like,
they're dismissive. They're shame.
But to go back to that point, this is what that the statement is correct, that you cannot. I'm not sure it's the right mode of verb. I think it's you should not be able to. However, when you are the dominant culture, you can. And I think going back to what I was going to say to you before was in the expression of fashion, the dominant culture controls the fashion industry. So they took over the baby hairs, they took over the way we dress and tried to make it high fashion without having a need for a single black model, but also without referencing where they get it from. So when even one of the shows, I can't remember if it's always one of the Italians that have always causing problem. I'm not sure if it was Dolce & Gabbana that had I think it was a Ghanaian based, like, when I say based, it was a rip-off of traditional Ghanaian cloth, and basically Pente cloth. I couldn't remember the word. And basically, they didn't acknowledge that it was from there. They said we were inspired by. When someone found that it wasn't not only inspired by, it was literally a copy of something that they'd seen. And I think that is what the dominant culture allows you to buy. It buys you the privilege of being able to separate the culture from the people. And
I really like that. That's the point.
No, it's a fantastic point, actually. And yes, we can talk about, we can use pop culture as examples, because
Anthony, don't even get me started.
Yes. Look at the way Raheem Sterling is treated by the press. Look at the way they have absolutely turned him into a this man scores goals for the country, and the way they vilify him is absolutely outrageous. And Anthony's bang on point. You know, even I was thinking about the fashion industry as you're talking about D&B, but even Stella McCartney a few years ago, and Marc Jacobs a few years ago in New York Fashion Week as well, with the multicolored dreadlocks that he had. Remember that?
Yes.
Exactly. And he was like, "Oh, I don't see color." Well, clearly you do, Mark. Clearly you do see color. And that's another thing. Don't racially gaslight us, thinking that we don't know what we're seeing. Don't gaslight us. Do not gaslight. I don't see color. I just saw something that I like. Well, no, because you know where you were getting it from. Or even more recently, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was on ASOS. I don't know if you use this in Caribbean cultures, but we have something. I can only think of it as igbale in my language, but it's a broom. But you know those brooms that are made out of they're made out of wood.
Yeah. Is it
the floor with? Yeah. So I think it's like £1.50 in Peckham Market. Legit, it costs like £1.50. And then on ASOS, someone was selling it for £45. £45 for what my grandma makes for banter when she's watching TV. £45. You know, and again, just like you said, it's they don't reference where you get that from. You don't acknowledge, and that's the damaging thing of cultural appropriation, is that you're very quick to make money off the back of black sweats, off the back of black ideas, but you will not give us credit where it's due.
And can we talk for a minute, because I'm not even going to talk about brands. I want to talk about ad agencies who are getting the brief from companies to want to see. Because can we just talk about
Shereen?
Go on, because I know
my thing to say about this. So can we just talk about this thing for a moment? Because, and this is what, again, people need to really take a moment. As Future Kane would say, they've got to sit with themselves. That's like my favorite saying from her. I've been saying it to everybody, like, you just need to sit with yourself for a minute. I love that phrase. Just sit with yourself for a moment and just think about this. When you think about all the aspects of Black culture, all the things that we've talked about, music, sport, blah, 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 blah. We are not saying that we've got the monopoly on brilliance for this stuff, but
I like Alexandra's comment there.
What's that?
Cultural plagiarism.
So let's talk about what I'm talking about. It's relevant, right? And then you've got these brand agencies who have hardly any Black people in their
Shereen speech, yes.
Right? And then you've got the brand company going to them and going, right, we need the advert, we need the TV advert, we need the pictorials, we need the thing for the magazine shoots, we want to make it cool, we want to make it acceptable, we want to make it hip. Where do they go when they want to do that? Where do they go? Which culture do they take from? Which culture every single time when they want to show like they're down with it, when they want to show that they're hit and they're happening, what do? But to your point, Abby, they are able to either sit back on their keyboard, right, and they watch the music that's trending. They go to Jamaica, they go to Nigeria, they will go to all these different places. They will go to South Africa, they will go to South America when you start talking about the Latinas, and they will take. They do not give credit to where it's come from. They have no involvement of those people from all the local cultures. I don't mean literally geographical, but like the specific cultures. So, and then they wrap it all up. The whole world goes crazy, goes and buys said product or whatever brand. And there is nothing that is been put back or helped to elevate the said cultures that they went and stole from. So they've used our culture, they've used other cultures, they've used, Leanne, I know you're going to talk about the example of tea in India, because this is actually bigger than just the black, there's other examples of this.
I was gonna come in for another one as well,
We're going to come to that. We're even going to talk about the Native Americans, because I learned a lot about that, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God. So there's a whole something. And the before we jump to that, the point of, because some people go, oh, how it is when we're talking about this stuff, and people go, yeah, but with black people, this is a very specific issue with black people. And I would say there are micro examples of this in lots of other cultures. It is concentrated in us because there's so many other factors. One of the things about the Native Americans, and I'll let you go into detail on this, but one of the things about the Native Americans is Westernized culture, the dominant Western culture, took sacred traditions, herbs, medicines, practices, their whole kind of philosophy. I don't want to use the word religion, like the spiritual philosophy. You know what I mean when I say that. And they took it. They didn't even respect it to use it in the way that it's meant to be used. Even if you're going to take it, okay, use it in the way. They messed it around a little bit, made it suit their purpose. And now when you go to a seaside town in the UK, you can go and you can buy a dream catcher for $2.99. You can go here, them ones. You can go here and go and take herbs that you're not meant to pay. There's some herbs and the things that they use for healing. You're never meant to sell it. You are never meant to make money. But what Western organizations did is they used it for pharmaceuticals. And so they took what they use. They went to Africa and did the same thing for Africa. So what you would give freely for one person to another, they took all of that, they put it into their medicine, then they go and charge a price which prices out the very people who were using it in their local traditions in the first place. Please.
How does that make sense? How does that make sense, Shereen?
It's not even just that. It's the concept that we, as the non-dominant cultures, are taken in and out of fashion. It's not just that they take our stuff, use it, make money. Is that they take our stuff, use it, make money, and then they throw us away in search of a new fad. There was a moment where you were on television and you couldn't move from adverts with music from will.i.am. You just couldn't. Wherever you went, he was popping up, whether it's chocolate or everywhere.
Yeah, he was.
Glasses, he had the t-shirt, there was the
he was
everywhere. Everywhere he was just everywhere. And that's the point. As you said, they take things that are fundamental cultural. Can you put up Pastor P?
Shut up, James. Shut up.
James, we need you to behave today.
Please, because you're like...
It's true.
It's true. I'm laughing because it's embarrassing.
You're right, but going back to it's not just, when we're talking about cultural appropriation, we're not just talking about black folks, we are talking about Native Indians, even saying things like, I can't stand this phrase, oh, my spirit animal, you're my spirit animal. I'm like, that's the Native American friends, and it wasn't meant to be used the way we are. I think we in the universal terms, I'll never say that. Even let's take it to yoga. Let's even take it to yoga, where South Asia.
Oh my God, wait, please, Abby. Go. I don't even know, but can we talk about the fact that I have a friend of mine, and can we talk about the fact where yoga? We don't even need to. Let's not even go like far, because I'm sure it probably came from Africa anyway. But, but let's concentrate on the fact that in India, right? And here's the cry. It's come from there. There's a whole philosophy around yoga. Westernized it. And I'm not going to come for everybody because not all yoga teachers are of this stereotype. But you know what I'm saying? There's a stereotype who run yoga studios. Sorry,
exactly. You're right.
Who run yoga studios, and guess what? People who have come from the very town, area where the yogi tradition was steeped in, they cannot even get a job as a teacher.
Exactly.
Because the other people who have no idea of the context are taken, and in some cases they cannot even be let into the studio. You go to some places in London, if you do not look a certain way, this is there, like it's theirs. Like we should be grateful to have that. They can't even get into the studio because they don't have,
South Asians
I can't even breathe.
For South Asians, yoga has a deep cultural and religious significance. They're not benefiting from the commercialization of yoga the way white middle class women are.
Yes.
That's what it is.
But it's not right. Oh wow, look at that. What this
you always come with something because this girl drops. I don't know if anybody follows her, but you should. She's
amazing.
Exactly. I actually do know that. I actually do know that podcast, Why White Women Killed Yoga, because
do you?
Because when I was reading about cultural appropriation, it was opening my eyes because white people not all white people, but of course we're talking about the dominant culture. White people can freely do what people of color were actively penalized for doing. And
but this goes back to the privilege part, Abby. It's the privilege to be able to pick and choose from different cultures and to make money from it and then to make it into your own, because now the benchmark of what a yoga teacher looks like is not somebody of Southeast Asian heritage. And when you then move on to
look at places like Sweaty Betty. Look at all of these amazing brands. They're fantastic brands and they've done amazing things, and that's what I'm talking about. But look at who represents them when we're talking about yoga. Look at who they have on their billboards and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
It becomes part. Don't forget, all of these things that are our culture, that are parts of the things that we do naturally, are then taken in and they're added into the brand of exclusivity. So if you think where yoga started out, yoga didn't start out at on the level of the high street man. No, yoga.
Anybody could walk off the street and you could go and you can practice and you can go and see the like the spiritual when it's
done properly. Yes. When it's done properly, but once it's done in a way that it needs to be sold, how do they sell and package it? Okay, so Gwyneth Paltrow is into this kind of yoga, and then she does it. Then comes the layer below, and then the layer below, and then the layer below.
Thank you, Saba. Thank you.
No, listen, Saba's like my sister from another mother. Hello, Saba. So lovely to see you here. So lovely. But yeah, it's honestly. And that's the thing, and this is where it goes back to your first, I don't know, Leanne, whether you or Abby said this in the very, very beginning when we started talking about this, is it hurts so much when you see this. And like sometimes, and I know you shouldn't let yourself get caught up in it, because otherwise you can't even get out of that pit of despair. But when you think, this is so chronically unfair when you look at the fact that we are in 2020 and we are fighting for equality and we are fighting to put in equitable practices to get us the equality that's so needed, a fundamental human right, which is always my point, a fundamental human right. And I'm thinking about myself here, have sleptwalked through so many examples of cultural misappropriation and just accepted it.
Exactly.
If I talk about me, I'm not talking about anybody else, because everybody else can do it. We've been fighting the fight. No, for me, I have accepted it.
Yeah. I'm going to say
I have accepted it when a co-worker has come in with a black hairstyle, and everybody thinks, you start getting the whole who are you hanging out with, and it's all cool, and she is the best thing since sliced bread because she's coming and she's hip and she's this, she's that. And then they go to her when they want insight into the culture because of the fact that she is hanging around clearly with people who are of the culture, when there are people who are the culture,
of the culture,
who are the culture, who do not get a look in. And I've sat there and either not said anything, I've not questioned, I've not challenged, and then even I've got into it. So I don't do yoga because I can barely touch my toes. Like, I'm just, give me some heavy weights and I'm good with that. So that's my thing. But I've gone and bought English breakfast tea.
Listen,
I know Leanne's got stories to tell about. I've gone and bought the £2.99 dream catcher from Bournemouth, Sodding. But you know them ones. You know the ones where you can buy the rock. You know them ones.
Listen, I can't. I'm not.
You know them ones. You go in the shop. You know the prices of teeth. You know the prices of teeth, and they come tell you about some. You know the rocking something on the. You know the ones.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's all with the fence. Shame on you.
Yeah, and you. Yeah.
What do you say, Leanne? Shame on you.
Shame on you. I've got to figure out what to say. Shame on you.
I told you. My proverbial is not all the way together. I am very honest in my failings.
No one is judging you, but the description just spares because we all know it.
You know what I'm saying? And you see all of this stuff, and like an idiot, I go, oh, that looks nice. And you pick up these little things.
Oh,
and then,
can I say, Shereen, I also want to make a confession. Me too, with my fast self. I have walked into Claire's Accessories and I bought chopsticks to put in my hair. Right? And you just think, no, but let's be real. No, because no, come back, Shereen's gone. Come back. Leanne, where you gone? Come back. No. Why are you both laughing? No,
Abby, only Abby can bring that one. So, girls, I gotta confess. Only Abby can put the job.
It's like a person to put even pencils in your head. That's why I'm laughing. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm trying to stick it on her hair.
Look at those chopsticks that you get from Claire's Accessories to hold your hair up.
Yeah.
Chopsticks are made for eating, they are not made to be put into your hair. That's not what chopsticks are for. It's like, but you go into Claire's Accessories or you go into Accessorize and they've got chopsticks. And I'm like, I was like, this can help me put my hair in a bun. Boom. And I'm thinking, this isn't right. I'm laughing. It's not.
Sorry.
Why are you guys laughing at me like this?
Because even I know chopsticks ain't meant to go in your hair.
They're not chopsticks, they're sticks, but you put.
I know.
So, in all seriousness, it's like, I'm not trying to be funny, but they look like chopsticks. You know what I mean? And that's where they got them from. And it's like, well, you already know that we wouldn't put a fork in our hair, would we?
No, but you know what? Isn't that the sticks in your hair? Isn't that the Japanese? That's the Japanese. Yes. In all seriousness, I'm trying to think, like, where does that? And that isn't that.
Everybody's laughing at me. Everybody stop laughing at me. You know what I meant by chopsticks? Yeah, I meant the sticks.
I'm not happy.
I can't.
You know what I meant. I look like.
Yes, this is what I was trying. But no, in all seriousness, this is right. This is a really good point. Right, this is the really good point, because when it is taken by the dominant society, and when it's misappropriated to such an extent, you can't even remember where it came from.
Right.
Like, in seriousness, let's just get to the root of that. I know we're laughing because Abby's extra walking around with sticks in her hair, but that is a good example.
Right.
I had to think for a minute because I'm going,
the geishas.
Right, it's the geisha, but where is that from? And that's the whole, and that is the point. You
forget where the origin is from. Yeah. You forget, I know that me and my dumb comment with like getting a job, but but I remember walking into Claire's Accessories and I remember thinking, I had my hair in I had my box braids, and I just remember seeing 2 chopsticks, and I'm thinking, because it was in the hair section and it was made to hair, and the model and it had it in her hair, and I was like, and then it was only until maybe a few years later I was just like, what the hell was that about? Do you know what I mean? When you think like this is not right.
But and that's the thing though with this. But you've also, before I play next tune, because I got one tune, so get your microphones out. You've got to really think and stop being so mindless in how we consume stuff. And this is what I've had to say to myself. And I know some people are like super good because they're like, no, I check it. I'm like, no. Through this whole rising of social consciousness, as I call it, you know, with everything that's happening, when I tell you, and I do not say this lightly, because you know, guys, what I'm like, oh my God, I've just learned this. For all of the challenge that I put out here and here and here, trust and believe there is equal challenge that I put to myself and go, what things have I subconsciously just like saw and didn't think was right, but just like when that don't suit my purpose, so let me carry on. And I guess that's why, you know, because I always wonder like why, and I'm sure people can sense that even in my cussing, you know, because it comes from a place of love, and it comes from a place of recognizing the fact that we are all imperfect, but it takes effort to be conscious and deliberate in this world, because there's so much of our condition, things just kind of seep in and it seeps back out again, and we don't question in the same way that we didn't question about cultural misappropriation, in the same way that we've sat in meetings, we've had presentations, and I know I have, where I've seen something, you know, when you think to yourself, not only is that not right, that is bang out of order to the highest level.
Yeah, it's offensive.
But you know what
I didn't say nothing.
Yes,
I did not say anything.
But the point about you not saying anything is that there's a level of casualness that the cultures that have that, the cultures that they've taken it from don't have a problem with it, because they still believe that we think any attention is valid attention. So, and that's the point. And the other point, and to the other point, Shereen, is that when you see those things happen, there's such a casualness about it. You don't always.
You even think, well, you're the crazy one. Have you had that? You know,
what I'm going to say is you're thinking to yourself, if I say something, am I causing trouble over nothing, or is it just me?
Because then when you do, the one time that you say something, everyone looks at you like you just
go. It's not that, and that's the point. It's that it's become so casual that we have to actually say, hold on a minute. If this is in the style of, how much am I going? Because they've made everything, not to dish you in your chopsticks, but I'm just saying, Abby, they've made the chopsticks one. Maybe it cost you $2.99, but real chopsticks, what effort, not the throwaway ones, but what effort goes into making them? What kind of craftsmanship is that?
Hold that. Can we talk about artifacts, please? Artifacts, cultural meanings.
And that the Brit stole them.
Let me explain to you what I'm saying.
What you saying?
It's not even like that.
I'm sorry.
Baby, I don't love her.
You don't love me. You know what? I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to see your face. I just want to see you walk through that door. There ain't nothing else to say.
Why would I do like this? Baby.
It seems you barely tapping my shoulder, thinking you gon' get you some, smelling like some fragrance that I don't even wear. So if you want some loving, I suggest you go back there. You can't come day to day. With you, it's always something else. Working my nerve. God knows that I don't deserve what you put me through, 'cause I've been so true to you. For you to come at me with another lame excuse. See, I all of your lies, all of your sweet talk, baby this, baby that, but your lies ain't working now. Now look who's hurting, now who's hurt. I had to shut you down. I had to shut you down. I was your fool. I believed in you. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. But your lies ain't working. Lies ain't working. That who's hurting. That who's hurting. I had to shut you down. I had to shut you down. What were you thinking?
Right, you can pay 1 more minute. It's too much.
It's above your head.
To calm my peace and take it to the street. Nothing you can do, and there's nothing you can say that could persuade me to stay with you another day. You have crossed the line to the point of no return. what you do from here on out. I am no longer concerned. See, I heard it all before, let me explain. Baby, it's not what you think. That's what you said to me. But your lies ain't working now. Now look who's hurting now. Now I had to shut you down. Shut you down. Shut you down.
You know when you forget for a minute?
I mean, talking serious things.
I would have played the whole song, and Abby and Leanne would have been like, Shereen, like, because she's got whole verses for this song.
Listen,
I love that song.
I love it. Look, everybody's like literally following the lyrics. Take you to the stream.
I know everybody is singing at home.
What a tune.
I've got two songs to fit in before we finish. And the one song, I'm just going to say this because I like to get early hyped. You are going to love my last song.
Do you know what then? So you better hurry up because I want to hear it. Nah, joking.
It's not your time yet. But Leanne, so can we talk about artifacts, please? Because I know we started talking about it with the. Can we talk about this? Please, can you talk about tea? Let's talk about tea.
Yeah. So this is me putting my hands up. So like, I was always proud of British tea.
You're welcome, Chris. We crazy.
I was super proud of British tea when I was growing up, British tea. And even now I am a tea collector. I love tea. I don't even know, 20 different types of tea in my house. Love it. However, it's something that also has been adopted by, we don't have British tea. Where the hell do we grow tea in England? Please tell me. And
it's English breakfast tea is actually, because you know when I went to Sri Lanka, I went to a tea factory. Yeah, and you know hold on, but seriously, but this is the thing about, I think Saba made this point earlier about, you know, when you're just so used to like seeing stuff in the supermarket shelves that you don't even question. So when they're breaking down to me like how tea is made, where it originates from, where it comes, then when I see how they pick the tea leaves, I swear that you could have knocked me right. Me and Big M were like, I was like, nah. I don't know what I thought. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought it was some like crop machine.
No.
That was coming in.
Yeah.
No.
That's hard labor. It's labor.
Yeah, it's
labor.
Hard.
Yes. That people just be drinking for banter. That people just be drinking and not knowing even the origins. About you calling it English breakfast tea. Where in the United Kingdom, the Isles, do we have that?
But don't forget Darjeeling's named after the Lord Darjeeling, and then Earl Grey.
Yeah.
You know, it's all of these things. And was you Shereen that you saying it as well? And even the process of drinking tea, we don't drink tea correctly. It's not.
We don't drink tea correctly. We drink it at the, because I learned this. Even the fact is, the temperature of the water.
Yep.
There is some tea that we put milk in that is actually not meant to be drank with milk.
Yep.
You know, all of it. And literally, this woman, like, my partner couldn't give a fly, and he was like wandering around the place, and I was like, just back on one time. I was like, and I said to her, please, can you just demonstrate how tea should be drunk? Because she was telling me so much stuff, and I was like, why are you doing this? What's this you're putting in? She was like, no. She said, you know, the temperature needs to be this. And I'm thinking,
it's a whole art. Tea is
it's like we like having a kettle that has different boiling temperatures. It isn't just for vanity metrics. It's actually because not all teas need boiling hot water. Some teas need to be a little bit cooler. Right, exactly. English breakfast tea, my backside.
It's hilarious when I remember when I was in Spain, was the first time I ever went to Spain, and you know, a lot of white English people go to Spain because, you know, that's where they and they were like, they don't even have anything English here, like there's no English breakfast. And I was looking at them thinking, the tea isn't yours, mate.
Right.
The tea isn't yours.
Adrian, can we just talk about this for a minute?
The PG,
listen, can we just talk about this for a minute? Do you know, when I was growing up in a pretty much, I keep having to remind people that I grew up in Crewe, like, you know, so literally there was like 3 black families and that was it, and everyone thought we were all related. Do you know what I mean? It was like, that was how bad it was. But when PG Tips, because you remember the old school PG Tips advert with the monkey?
Always,
Yep.
always the whole family.
Yeah.
With the,
Right.
the chimp with the pinion and everything, and the whole.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So you know at school, I was
No.
in secondary school. Yes, you know what I'm going to say. I was in secondary school, right? And some of the boys used to say, Shereen, I know what tea you drink in your house.
Don't.
Yes. Yes. And they thought it was the funniest thing.
Of course they did. Of course they thought it was funny.
Since somebody had watched a rerun of The Real McCoy, they were laughing that hard. Can you imagine? And I remember one of my friends going, but Shereen doesn't even drink tea. Like at that age, you don't drink tea. I was like, don't even drink tea. They'd be like, yeah, but we know how it must look in your house, isn't it? Ooh, ooh, ooh. And you know when you think to yourself, like these, listen, I've got examples of being called gollywog. I've got examples of being called the COON word.
But
I've got examples of all of this.
Jam.
But not only that, but the point is, when they were seeing these references on television, go back to like the subconscious, all of these references and the civilization of the monkeys drinking tea. And then, you know, when you go, now as adults, I'm looking back on that and I'm thinking, Lord, don't even get me started on that. But imagine when you're like, I was what, 13, 12, 13? What are you like? Year 7, 12? I'm my oldest daughter's age, she's 12, right? Imagine that this is the sort of stuff that you'll see. And then not only that, and the irony of the fact that the tea doesn't even come from the UK in the first place. Do you know what I mean? It's like the irony of all these things.
Shereen, and that for me, with those stupid adverts, it trivializes the violent historical oppression. It trivializes our oppression. It trivializes systemic racism, because that's the people chanting, having monkey chants here. But oh my God,
Abby, let me just say one more thing. So when you're talking about your tea and you say 1 sugar or 2, where the hell do you think that sugar came from? And Saba made a good point just now. She said, you know, do they teach that in history? Let me tell you, sugar plantations were the hardest work. They were harder to work than coffee. Now, the slaves in Jamaica worked to the bone because what European taste dictated for their tea that came from India that they needed.
So the tea that you didn't even need to drink it with sugar, because you could use honey for they've got like another version of sugar that's not sugar. It's like there's something else that they use. It's not actually meant to be had with sugar like we drink it with sugar, just to make the point.
Right. So when people are talking about misappropriation, sugar cane grew in the Caribbean, sugar cane grew in South America, and people were doing what they were doing it just fine until it had to become something commoditized, until it had to become a good for the Europeans that our blood, sweat and tears went into to graft it. So when people are asking, would you like a cup of tea? Although I love my tea, the question they're really asking me is, do I want to tea? But do I want to tea? Do I want to tea? Yeah,
you know what's funny, Leanne, which is really going back to what you and Shereen are saying, which is really hilarious when people tell me you should go back to your own country. I'm like, that's fine, because I'll survive in my own country.
Because you know what I'm going to take with me? Because you know what I am going to take with me when I go back to where I came from. And then he tells me what I am bringing.
And I'm going to drop a nugget for everybody. Potatoes didn't come from Ireland. I'm just going to tell you that now. For everyone who wants to think potatoes came from Ireland, they didn't. They came from the Caribbean, and they came from South America, and they also came from Africa, but they didn't originate in Ireland. So when we're gonna take our potatoes too, and then you're not gonna have no chip shop.
No, but my thing is, you telling me to go back to my own country, that's fine, because I'm going to survive. Because Britain as an empire, do you think you guys will be where you are without all the places you colonized? Do you think you'll be standing as a powerful Western country without people like us? Of course you wouldn't.
But this is the
point.
point.
That goes back to the point about how is it that we are here, the three of us, we are grown in.
Oh, James. Jack Rice, you know that when when
Oh my God, we're gonna have to talk about this. We're gonna have to talk about this. See, like James, I'm coming. Hold on, I'm gonna cuss James for a minute because I'm coming with my deep thoughts now. I was gonna link it to the
Jamie Oliver and his Jack Rice.
No, it wasn't that one. It was him.
No, it wasn't that one. It wasn't Jamie Oliver. It was who was it, Leanne? Who was it?
The one with the rice and peas, the one that's got the bags under his
head. Yes. A Saturday morning guy, I think. He does the Saturday morning show.
Jean-Claude, he's got the husky voice.
Yes, Jean-Pierre, Marco Pierre.
No.
Who is it? Does anybody know who did the Jerk Rice? Come on, help us out, because this is going to
be Jamie Oliver. But can I just say one thing to your point before you go any further, Shereen? Just going back for 2 seconds.
Sorry, hold on, because Leanne, you're making people. Who said about the fish? You're making people cry about the fish.
It's Jamie Oliver. It's Jamie
Oliver.
Oh, so he did the Jerk Rice, and then the other one did the rice and peas, where he took like peas out of a tin, and then
oh my God! And listen, it wasn't even like gunga peas. It wasn't even. And you know what? And I can say this: I must be the only second generation Caribbean West Indian person to not like rice and peas. I do not like beans. I don't like kidney beans. I don't like anything. So when I have curry goat and rice, plain rice. Rice and peas, because I don't eat rice and peas. But even I know what beans they use was not the beans that are meant to go in rice and peas. Right. It was just, but you know what the worst thing is as well? When that happens, everyone's like, I don't know why you black people are making such a fuss. Because I mean, what did somebody say to me? I thought you would be grateful that we're taking like one of your national, and I'm like.
No.
And there is the word. The operative word in that sentence, Shereen, is grateful.
Oh, right.
You know what? Yes.
And that's the operative word.
And just to go back to your other point, Shereen, about the continuous erasure of us in history, it's also the fact that West African architecture, the way the slaves used to build their own living quarters is what dictated a lot of the architecture that we have in London today. All
right, hold that thought. Lord have mercy, hold that thought. Now, listen, I know you think I'm lying, because I know people don't know this, but Leanne and Abby do not know what tunes I'm playing, right? They have no idea. Only I have the order. I do. We do not talk about how we're going to make the conversation flow. So because we were talking about rice and peas, right?
I think it's going to be ting-a-ling-a-ling.
You got this one?
Yes, there is.
Baby girl. Oh my God, you got this one?
Yeah, from Berries.
Let me get a rewind.
Well, you can't go and make you tell your berries. They must have to get on your ear.
This is one tune, oh my God.
Hey, little girl, each time you pass my way, I'm tempted to touch.
I got a
I love him all the time with the birds. Oh, baby. The dress you wear, your perfume keeps me wanting you so much. All the mercy I need is very, very bad. Now I any lover when me want to get. 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 I put a fancy master on the one princess. All of them come on to kiss off me neck. Come run up with the ranking life and direct. And when me come a dance and say me not take no check. Any lover when me want to get. 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 Now I'm gonna make sure she's mine. A love like yours will never leave me behind. Hey, little girl, each time you pass my way, I'm tempted to touch. Here, let me go on, take your head. Dress you wear.
Oh my God, the bass on this tune is crazy. Oh.
Let me see where I can get that. So much Because love is a splendid thing. Can't be say love come with a giant a bring. Can't be say love is a splendid thing. Can't be say love come with a giant.
Oh my God, guys. Well, we're nearly at the end. We've got like a few
I had
little...
to mute myself. I'm sorry. That tune's too much, and I had to sing out loud. I couldn't just mind.
That's one thing, you know. That's one thing.
No.
Listen. But isn't that funny? Look how that was my next tune, and look how I swear to God, I swear to goodness. Listen, I'm just like, I don't even know why.
You're just on fire.
I am. So go on, Leanne. So you was talking. Yes, let's finish. I know this is so depressing, but I've got one tune to uplift everybody. But let's talk about the architecture, Victorian houses. Actually,
Right.
Victorian houses, particularly in London.
Yeah, because basically what happened was that at the time, a lot of the West Africans that came there, the way they built their compounds was to first of all encourage a sense of communality, that everybody could come together. But they also built it in a way to make sure that there was it's almost like air conditioning in the old days, so that there was a way to make sure air came through. They had the concept of a larder, they had a concept of a cool room, all these principles that were taken back into British architecture, you know, all these things about irrigation systems. That was all from the slaves. The fact that they had a separate way of getting rid of sewage versus using for clean water. All these things came from us. But if you look now, this doesn't have a name of any slave from Jamaica or any slave from Barbados. No, it's once again this historical erasure. It's the fact that we are.
Hold on, but Leanne, I'm just going to go, because you know this is a subject very close to my heart. As we know, I am the descendant of the enslaved. I would rather we talked about enslaved rather than the slaves, because
Yeah.
going back to what you taught me is the fact that a lot of this, when you talk about ironmongery and all of these things, all these things were already being utilized before the colonizers came over and colonized. Yes, so then they took that. So these people were just, as I like to say, minding their own business, like do whatever you do back in those days when you ain't got ships coming to come and pick you up and take you. You just fighting with the tribes and you fighting with, and you do whatever, but you're doing it all of that. And then they took that. But then in our minds, even when we recount the stories, we are still talking about slaves as their identity. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, now we've all got to come correct with that. Now we're going to talk about the enslaved, because I've had to learn that. Stop using that phrase, slaves, the enslavers. Let's not let them get off the hook and be enslaved.
And I think, you know something, to your point, actually, I think using the phrase "the slaves" is actually a distancing mechanism, so that it doesn't also impact you personally, me personally, but you put it as something that's further away from you, so that you don't internalize the hurt that comes with it, knowing that your forebears suffered these atrocities, knowing that your forebears did all these wonderful things. Let me tell you, pottery. During the point of slavery, the enslaved were creating their own pottery, but what happened was a market was created by which they bought cheap goods created in Great Britain, in Europe, because it was a status symbol. So taking our earthenware and selling them and using those techniques, they then sold us cheap stuff.
And I think that's why, and I think, you know, when some people, because you know, every so often, like there's always something that rumbles up in like the British media and stuff. But you know, when like certain countries come for United Kingdom to come and take back some artifacts that we've had here in this country, and they go, we want this back in our museums now. And you know, there's always, it never really, I don't know whether it gets mainstream enough for like lots of people to go, but you always have these ripples of different countries. It happens every few years. Egypt starts knocking on the door. Somebody else starts knocking on the door and go, you've had this in, you know, the Museum of London, the Museum of where it is, Liverpool Docks, which, as we know, was the
port for the slaves. Yeah, Liverpool. Yeah.
And every so often they go knocking on the door, and I was like, oh no, we can't. We've had this for 100 years, and they go, but you stole it from us, so we want it back. We want it back.
It's
and
not yours. It's not like that. That's why, you know, and I know it's pop culture. I know it's pop culture, but I don't know if you've both seen Black Panther.
Yes.
Not yet.
You haven't? Yeah,
Leanne.
Black Panther. Leanne.
Are you even black? Are you even black?
Do you want me to revoke your black card?
I'm taking it. What do you mean you've not seen it?
You've
I'm sorry. When it came out, I was heavily pregnant, people. So I am not feeling no shame that I did not wander to the cinema when
it's been out on Sky. And
Germany, I don't have Sky. Well, maybe they do, but I don't.
Leanne, I will send you a link.
And I have Amazon.
No, look, Leah, everyone coming for you now.
Yeah.
Look at this now.
Watch it.
Look.
Anyone else tell me at the same time I did when Black Panther was big, then you can tell me.
I'm sorry, Leanne. I didn't mean to shame you like this. But anyway, in Black Panther, I know, like, because obviously, you know me, I know the film inside out.
I could have lied. I love that film. I could have lied, but I didn't.
There's a part in Black Panther that's really important. Yes, it's pop culture, but he makes a very bloody point where Killmonger, sorry, Leanne, it's been out long enough. I'm going to have to give you spoilers.
I know who they are. I just haven't watched it yet. Michael B. Jordan's character, when he goes to the museum and he's like looking at this artifact and he's like, you know, when he's speaking to the museum director and she's like, oh, this is from here. And he's like, fam, this is vibranium from Wakanda that you people stole. Yeah, we didn't give it to you. We didn't give, and as much as, and I remember in the cinema, because I went to the opening night, obviously, you know me. I went to the opening night of that with my ex. Yeah, wearing all of my native. But
did you? Were you one of them ones?
I was one of them ones.
This is a side point, Leanne, because I'm just going to bloop you out of, do you know what I'm going to do? Wait. Leanne, let me get close to you. Please, after this is finished, you will go and watch Black Panther.
It's really, you know, it is really, that scene was really important. It was important because, you know, I think if got even white people, I remember in the cinema, that particular scene, I remember white people were like, they had like, whoa, we just got schooled. Yeah. We all just got schooled. That was a little nugget that Ryan Coogler, the director, dropped in just to remind you, like, all those African artifacts, we didn't give them to you. We want them back. We did not give them to you. They were not yours to keep. Yeah, but because you guys like to thief everything that's not yours. You like to take things because you colonize and you go into all these countries and you just take shit that doesn't belong to you. Of course, we want it back.
But Abby, listen. But the point is, forget, because look, everyone's coming. Sorry, Leanne, everyone's coming for you. Everyone's coming for you. Everyone's coming for you. Like people come for me when I said I still haven't seen Titanic. I haven't.
Listen, I'm going to say this. I could have lied. But I knew
I know, you get
told the truth.
You got points.
I still haven't seen it yet. I'm watching.
No, but let me just make this point about what you were saying, Abby. The other thing is that, like anything, right? So when there are a lot of people, even now, there's probably people listening to this who are going, yeah, but like, I never stole anything. You know, my uncle didn't steal nothing. The point is, yeah, but you know that one. It went me. I didn't have slaves. I didn't have you know, all of that. And you're like, oh my God, nobody says you did. But the principle is, when you know this history, when you know the context, right, you can't pretend you don't know. So then when countries come and ask for their artifacts back, when as Black people, we tell you, you cannot misappropriate our culture anymore, you have got to sit with yourself for a moment and ask yourself, why are you fighting so hard to keep hold of it when you already know it was never yours to begin with? Exactly. So even if you did not take it personally, because this, you know, people go, oh my God, no, we're not saying that.
But you know what it is? Do you know what it is? It's a trophy. It's a trophy of conquest. Just like when somebody hunts a lion, they keep the lion's head. Just like when somebody does all these things, it's proof of their conquest. Because if they give it back, what proof do they have? It's something to display to say, at one point, you were mine. You might not be the case anymore, but you were mine. And that's why they don't want to give it back. The one thing Great Britain loves to do best, just like they can live for the World Cup in bloody 1966, is live in history.
That's what they, yes, exactly. But it's funny because they like to whitewash history, which is why I think on one of Shereen's posts, maybe 2 weeks ago, where I was like, we don't care about Henry VIII and his blood clot wives. We don't care about died, beheaded, survived, beheaded.
Yes, what happened? Yes, because what happened was I was talking about the government, the education minister refusing to change the curriculum, and somebody, because everyone's like, yeah, we should, you know, and just to be really clear on this, all we as Black people and actually as brown people, all that we're saying is make it fair. Don't just teach all of our children about slavery and one black person who did a little half something, make it fair. Because if, to Abby's point, if I can tell you about how many wives Henry VIII has, if I can tell you about Queen Victoria, if I can tell you about, if I can tell you about all these things, why can I not tell you about that? So what does that do to the minds? And then some guy put in the comments, yeah, but I mean, we don't want to take it too far because, you know, we don't want to erase our own British history.
Yeah, exactly. So listen,
everyone went, later, I'm out. I said what I had to say. Like, I'm gone. Like, you lot take over because I can't with this.
Because the black so go on. I talk about is the guy whose portrait sits in the National, who was the friend of some person, but really he was in servitude. All of
I remember that.
Why did they want to highlight it? Why don't they highlight all the doctors that were coming over and doing research in Britain? Doctors from Nigeria, black doctors from Ghana that were doing all of that. Where are they? Where are all the pilots, the RAF, the GIs that were fighting for the?
I'm not saying that, you know, let's erase Henry the
No, I'm saying we need to know as much about our ancestral history as we do about Henry VIII.
That's what I'm saying.
Because all the powdered wigs and all of that business. Why don't you
all I know, everything that I know now about slavery, about colonization, about Britain as an empire was me reading books. That was me, you know, watching documentaries. That was me educating myself. That's not, and I did history A level. I did not know any of that. Even I was to do
it's not in the textbook. It's not even in the standard. It is not in the textbooks. But you have to study it in a specialist subject, a very specialist subject, and even then you have to be able to go back and trace a few volumes to get the real. Because, you know, I think, when did somebody tell me it's like 1920s, 1930s that they decided, you know what, there's some pages of history we need to start leaving out. Let's just, and this goes back to, because, you know, I always keep having to bring back to structural racism, which is embedded into our society because decisions were made before we were all born, of which systems were built upon somebody sitting or a group of individuals sitting and making decisions about what was going to be in history and not history. So what they wanted to show to reinforce the image of white superiority versus what's not. And then as you apply that in employment, as you apply that in the health system, as you apply. And the thing is, where it's structural is because we do not question where it came from. This is what I keep saying to people. This is not about turning around and going, because there's structural racism, because there's cultural misappropriation, because there's this, the whole world is racist, all white people are racist. It's not about that. It is saying that racism is a system that started such a long time ago. And the only way to break that is if we have to deconstruct and go, what is the assumption? What is the assumption? What is the assumption? Until you cannot go any further and you go, that is where it started. So this is what we've got to now just rip out and then rebuild again. And it's the same point.
Yeah,
it's the same point.
Yeah, exactly, Shereen.
You know how I feel. I just feel like I need to just tell people, because like I feel like even now with all of this awakeness, I don't really like to use the word for woke because it's now got negative connotations, but you know, with all this awakeness, I still feel
the moment that white people found that, the moment they found that word woke, they have just, I don't know, the way they have just rinsed that word, but just used it in the wrong way. Can I just really say, I don't know who mentioned it, someone said, but really good point. A lot of the things that I knew in school growing up about Black history was American Black history. It wasn't British Black history. Yes, that was it. Yes. I can tell you about Martin Luther King. I can tell you about...
That goes back to Leanne's point, though, about distancing. That goes back to the point about distancing, because if we're talking about those bad Americans, they're awful, aren't they? Honestly, you know, we never did anything like that. And it's like, no, because we ain't got it documented because you lot sodding wiped it off, or your ancestors wiped it off.
Adrian's made a brilliant point. That is a brilliant point. You know, how can you write the bottom?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yep.
Yeah, how can the UK justify teaching about Henry VIII's wives, yet manage to omit the fact that over 15,000 men from the Caribbean colonies served in World War I? Everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
It doesn't support the narrative of what
No,
they're trying to
we're not talking about Lawrence Fox.
We're not talking about Lawrence Fox because that, like, literally.
No, I didn't listen. I'm saying it doesn't support the narrative that they're trying to perpetuate, and the narrative they're trying to perpetuate is Great Britain. It's the same, omitting that Great Britain were the ones who were controlling everything in the southern states. It's omitting all of these things to make sure what they say is gospel. That's it.
Yeah, I just want to, so, you know, because we are now going to start to wrap up. I've got one more song. Look how overrun we are, but it is the last one because we're not back until, like, what is it, like what's it,
4th of September.
4th of September, something far.
I think because I think the next one should be gentrification because Anthony mentioned that today, and I realised that.
Yeah. Sorry, right. We're going to do. Remind me, please, because you know, like, my memory is not really good. So, but I want to talk about this. So this is a really big something. This whole thing about, and it's not even the intersectionality. So I'm going to talk about, you know, our Black challenges, but we're going to also talk about class. And it's not only just about Black as well as social class. It's about social class and it's about power. If we talk about power dynamics for a minute, not now, I mean, but when we talk about this, because that is a whole other subject. You know what? This is one of the few things, because you know I don't like to be what I call distracted. You know when people go, the whataboutisms, like somebody taught me that phrase a few weeks ago. I was like, oh, I like that. What about this? But I will allow social class as a what about, because I think there are some things, we are doubly affected, but also there are some things when you start talking about the dominant and power, not just like the faces of people in power. So I want to, can you please remind me that I don't forget that?
Because there is a book that everybody needs to read about the rise of the aristocracy. And when you understand how the aristocracy was created within the UK, this part about obedience has been taught and enforced. The basis of the aristocracy is the basis of colonialism. And when you understand what they did here in the UK, then they took it abroad with disease and fear. You understand so much more as to how everything works. That's
okay. Well, I don't know why. I just feel really depressed about even having.
Depressed? No, I don't feel depressed because this is like the main.
No, I just feel like.
No, I haven't finished.
No. You know when you start talking about social, I mean, you know when you just start to think to myself, this is what we got to like unpick. You know when you're just thinking, if it ain't one thing, it's another, and it's just a reminder of the other, and there's so many others. You know, for that moment, I was just like, oh my god, there's like so much.
It's like that thing though. It's like when you're knitting, you pick one strand of wool, and you can unravel the whole thing. We're just trying to find that strand.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, so do I.
Right, so we're going to say our goodbye. Well, I say goodbyes. I'm going to play this tune for the longest ever because it's such a good. So I hope people stick around and we can just like just talk foolishness in the comments so I can be, because I've been a lot better today. So I'm going to keep like bringing in. So this is us now until the 4th. I am off for 2 weeks. So I am going to do the replay. If anybody, whoever's sitting through an hour and 37 minutes of this replay is like a brave person, you can just listen to it and have it on while you do stuff in your house. But I'm going to do that tomorrow, and then I'm going to post and run tomorrow, and then I am off the grid. I've got no social media. WhatsApp is being deleted off my phone. There is no news apps. I'm going to sit and read paranormal romance novels. I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to watch Amazon Prime. I'm going to walk in the country. I'm going to just like slob about in my pajamas all day and just, you know what I mean? I'm just not even going to comb my hair. I'm just not going to do nothing.
Thanks for all of that. If anyone wants to know what I'll be doing, I'll still be on social media.
I'm gonna be working like 12-hour days for the next 2 weeks. So,
I shan't be working. I'll
be working. So I'm
drinking my pressure.
Listen, everyone's like, are you going abroad? I'm like, no, I'm staying in my house. I've got one new Kindle. I've got, you know, this Kindle Oasis. This next level.
Hey.
Next level.
Yeah.
Next level. So I'm going to be enjoying myself. So I'm going to play this song. We can chit chat. We can wave. This is like a real. I felt like this was needed. This song is needed. Right. Let me just see now. Oh. Keep on. I have no idea who that is, but thank you so much.
No matter how hard reality seems, just hold on to the dream. Long as you keep your head to the sky. Long as you keep your head to the sky. You can win. As long as you keep your head to the sky. No, you don't have to stop my fire. Keep pushing on.
Where's that joy happening?
I know the storm that's gone. I look around you. Oh, Lord, just think ahead and you'll be inspired to be fire.
Thank you, Lydia.
Your head to the sky.
Nothing more powerful than joy, girls.
This song always uplifts my spirit.
Yeah.
James,
You're so out of order.
James is so out of order. James is,
Yeah.
Right, guys, that's it.
That's it. We'll be back in a
Happy holiday,
fortnight.
everyone.
I think should we do gentrification? Is
Yes. We got every time I think, like, I know I say this every time, I say this every time. I'm gonna run out of things to say. We are gonna run out of things to talk about, and then no, we got this. Listen, we all just have to pray. I just need to get to. I'm on video day 70. Just help me get to 100. I need all I need to do is get to 100, and then I can be like, I'm turning it into a book. There you go. You heard it here first. I will turn it all into.
Who said what am I gonna do Fridays at 2 p.m.? Don't worry, man. We're coming.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll do reruns. We'll play the videos on our YouTube. We'll do reruns.
We'll be back. We've got some really good topics coming for autumn. We've got some good hot pepper topics for you all.
Yeah. Listen, I know I keep saying this because everyone thinks I'm just like, I don't hype up for no reason. Like, I hyped up my own DJ skills. Anyone, don't come and tell me that I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to dropping track. Please do not come and tell me nothing.
Is that really what you have to say? Who challenged you right now?
My knees are still popping from Usher. My knees are they're still going.
I almost had to take us off broadcast and go back on because I couldn't. When you're talking about your knees popping and locking, I'm like, what?
I cried today. My mascara couldn't handle it. If I've got tracks of my tears going down my face, we know why. Abby, I don't even know the things you were saying today, Abs, but it's all on my face.
It was the chopstick, isn't it? It was
before the chopstick.
We got a load of things to talk about. Oh my god, we got loads. All right, guys. Well, listen. I think that's it. We're gonna go.
See you all. Bye.
Bye. Bye.